Every story begins with the land, with people who dare to grow, to lead, and feed the world. This is the Let's Talk Agriculture podcast, where Africa's voice in food and agribusiness meets the global stage.
Hi, and welcome to the Let's Talk Agriculture podcast. My name is Sharon. Today, I'm having a conversation around something that I think a lot of institutions and organizations still struggle with. And that is how to turn internal work into external visibility and institutional credibility. You know, for a very long time in the agricultural sector, and possibly across many industries, communication has been reduced to content creation, social media posting, and the rest. But communication is much bigger than that. For me, communication is all about building from the foundation, institutional credibility, strategic positioning. It is about how organizations take what they are already doing internally and translate it into how they are seen externally. Now, here is the real issue, right? In most institutions, they already have a lot of work going on. Talk about the multiple projects that they have running, the programs that they are already executing. You know, they already have good systems in place, and of course impact. But the problem is that a lot of this work is not visible outside the organization. And in today's world where we are, you know, invisible work has very little value in the market. And this isn't because your work is not important, but because it is not seen, it is not understood, and it is not clearly translated. So the issue here isn't lack of impact, right? The real issue is lack of visibility architecture. Okay. And here's what really usually happens, right, in most organizations. There is this heavy focus on execution, right? They underinvest in communication infrastructure. And they assume that if the work that they're doing is good enough, of which it is good, right, the result will automatically speak for themselves. But this is the point where we miss it, right? Because the truth is that results will not speak. People will interpret results. And interpretation only happens when the work is communicated intentionally. So your internal work does not automatically becomes external credibility. There has to be some sort of deliberate system in place that can translate it for you. Now, this is where I want to introduce a shift, right? From execution to visibility design. I'll tell you that visibility is not accidental. It is not just documentation. And it is definitely not just posting updates. Visibility is the strategic translation of internal value into external understanding. And this is where communication becomes institutional strategy, not just messaging. Now let's make this very practical. If you are an institution, right, an organization, and you're responsible for communication, or probably, you are responsible for communication within one, there are 3 things you need to start doing differently. First, you need to identify what is already valuable internally. You need to identify what is already valuable internally. Because for most organizations, they do not have a visibility problem, they have a recognition problem. Because I like to think that you already have a lot of work happening in your company, but it is not being identified and positioned properly. So, here are the questions I need you to ask. What projects are we currently running? What systems have been built? What milestones have we achieved? What problems have we solved internally that no one outside knows about? Are you seeing this? Are we following? So you see, visibility will start when there is an awareness of the value that you have. Secondly, you need to translate, not report. We can be so quick to turn all of those into reports and then share. No. Now, this is where most communication will just end, right? This is where it just breaks down. Reporting is an internal language. That's what you do inside your organization. It focuses on what was done. Now, translation is now an external language, and it focuses on why what you've done matters. Now, your external audiences, right, do not connect with activity. They connect with meaning, with impact, with relevance. So your job is not just to document what happened. Your job is to translate it into something that can be understood, trusted, and responded to externally in the markets that you operate. Third, you need to package internal work into visibility assets. Just because you have so many work doesn't mean that you should just scatter it everywhere. You should turn it into communication outputs. Things like the case studies, impact narratives, strategic updates, thought leadership content, and stakeholder communication pieces, right? This is what builds institutional memory in public spaces. Are we following? All right. So visibility is not just communication. Visibility is what builds trust before engagement even happens. Now, it is what shapes perception before partnerships are formed. And it is what determines whether an institution is seen as credible and reliable, or simply active but invisible. So, if you take one thing from this conversation, let it be this. If your internal work is not visible externally, it is not a problem of performance. It is a problem of communication structure. And once you fix that structure, you don't just improve communication, you get to improve how your institution is perceived, positioned, and trusted. Well, that's it for today. For today's episode. And thank you so much for listening to my talk on the Let's Talk Agriculture podcast. My name is Sharon, and I will definitely see you in the next conversation. And just before I go, if this conversation sounds familiar to you, if you are an institution where a lot of internal work is happening, but it is not translating into external visibility or institutional credibility, then this is usually not just a communication issue. It is a positioning issue. And this is exactly where I come in. So I work with organizations to first define their narrative and positioning, what I call the narrative and positioning foundation. Now, this is a focused engagement where we clarify how the organization should be seen, how it communicates value, and how its internal work is translated into external visibility. And for organizations that are already that have already put some sort of structure in place, I get to support them on an ongoing basis through a communication advisory, where we align messaging, guide communication output, and ensure consistency across internal and external communication. So if you are at that point where your work is strong, right, but your visibility and positioning are not reflecting it, this is the gap I help you close. So don't be a stranger. Feel free to connect, and of course do subscribe to this episode. If you find it interesting, find it educative, please do share with your friends, with your colleagues, and I look forward to hearing from you.
You have been listening to the Let's Talk Agriculture podcast, a production of LTA Studio. Keep the conversation growing. Follow and share wherever you get your podcasts.